Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Pen Vicarage on this Friday morning. Lovely to see you. Hope you're well and cheerful, and great to see you. I'm glad you could join us for our Bible talk today. Lovely to see you today. Just to say, this weekend we've got a special treat. Apart from all our usual services this weekend, on Sunday evening at Evensong at 5:30, we have had a group of children join our evening service choir. And for many of them, it's going to be their debut. They're going to be singing just trebles only, which is just children only, on this coming Sunday evening at 5:30. And you know what? It would be lovely if some people would come and support them. So if you are free at 5:30 Sunday evening, pop along to church, and we would love to see you for a lovely experience and really give our children some great support in this new step for them as they prepare also for the choir tour this summer. So do come along, support us, hold us in prayer. Please join us in worship, either in face-to-face or online. We'd love to see you, and you'd be very, very welcome. Friends, as you know, we are coming towards the back end now of the letter of Paul to the Romans. Next week, by the way, not next week, week after, we're looking at 2 Corinthians. We're carrying on with Paul, a book I don't know very well, actually. So looking forward to getting into that. But for this morning, it's Romans chapter 14, and I'm reading verses 1 to 12. Here goes. Paul writes, "Welcome those who are weak in faith, but not for the purpose of quarrelling over opinions. Some believe in eating anything, while the weak eat only vegetables. Those who eat must not despise those who abstain, and those who abstain must not pass judgment on those who eat. For God has welcomed them. Who are you to pass judgment on servants of another? It's before their own Lord that they stand or fall, and they will be upheld, for the Lord is able to make them stand. Some judge one day to be better than another, while others judge all days to be alike. Let all be fully convinced in their own minds. Those who observe the day, observe it in honour of the Lord. Those who eat, eat in honour of the Lord, since they give thanks to God, while those who abstain, abstain in honour of the Lord and give thanks to God. We do not live to ourselves, we do not die to ourselves. If we live to the Lord, and if we die to the Lord. So then, whether we live or whether we die, we are the Lord's. For to this end Christ died and lived again, so that he might be Lord of both the dead and the living. So why do you pass judgment on your brother and sister? Or you, why do you despise your brother or sister? For we will all stand before the judgment seat of God. For it's written, as I live, says the Lord, every knee shall bow to me, and every tongue shall give praise to God. So then, each of us will be accountable to God." And this is the word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. Well, my friends, it is a sad fact, as I'm sure you know, that Christians fall out from time to time, and churches fall out from time to time. And it's surprising, I think it surprises some people, the strength of feeling, actually. Sometimes people can fall out quite a lot. Although in some ways, it shouldn't really surprise us. On the one hand, Christians are human. That lovely post used to say, be patient, God hasn't finished with me yet. We're all human, aren't we? And humans inevitably fall out. And I think the other thing is, because our faith is so important to us, I mean, to me, my faith is the most important thing in my life. And for that reason, I feel passionately about it. And therefore, if it's something that's really important to you, you feel passionate about it, the chances are if we do have disputes, sometimes we're going to have passionate disputes and fallouts as well. So in a sense, because we feel so strongly about our faith, inevitably, we're likely to fall out big time sometimes. Now, in these chapters here, chapters 13, 14 and 15, Paul talks really often about how to love God and how to love your neighbour. And I think Paul addresses a lot of this to do with falling out, really, in this verses I've just read for us just now. And I think what Paul does really is I think he gives us 3 hints. Firstly, he recognises this. There are issues in the Christian life that are really important, and there are issues which aren't. There are things that are worth going to the lions for and really making a stand on, and there are others which aren't. So, for example, if the Church of England decided tomorrow we don't believe in God anymore, then, for example, I think I'd be out the door. On the other hand, if it comes to what particular hymn book a church may use, or what clergy wear or whatever, I think you'd argue that's a secondary issue. It's not quite so important. And Paul does talk here about what he calls opinions, and the translatable, of course, it's debatable matters. So I think what Paul tells us to do is to recognise those things which are really important, those things which are, as I say, worth going to the lions for, and those things that aren't. And I think what he's saying really here is we should obviously get passionate about things that are really important and not so worry about things that aren't. And in terms of debatable matters, he talks about a couple of them this morning. First, he talks about some people abstain from meat and some people don't. He's not, by the way, referring to vegetarianism here. He's talking about ritually. Some people don't eat pork and that sort of thing, and other people do. He's also talking about some people have observed certain days and other people don't. And I think you could argue kind of similar things in the church today, that we all like different styles of worship and that sort of stuff as well. But I think what Paul is saying firstly is recognize those things which are really important and get wound up about those. But let's allow a certain amount of charity and lateral you might say, latitude is the word I'm looking for, in things that aren't. So let's recognize the things that are really important and the things that aren't. I think that's the first thing he would say. And as I say, let's because often we tend to get wound up about secondary issues. Well, let's stick passionately to the primary, the most important things, and let's allow a lot of latitude about the second ones. Secondly, he says, whatever you do in the Lord, he says, you do it for the Lord. And I think this is interesting, actually, because when it comes to styles of worship and the way we worship and the way we do things, inevitably, because we're all different people, we all like different ways of doing things. And if you have any involvement with the world church, you find that people across the world worship in different ways. And I think what he's saying here is that whichever way you do it with enthusiasm, do it with passion. Don't do it half-heartedly, do it with passion. I remember years ago, 3 or 4 years ago, I went on a trip to South Africa, to our companion diocese of Matlasani. Fantastic experience. It used to be called Klerksdorp back in the apartheid days. And it's amazing people there. And the thing that struck me the first service I went there on Ash Wednesday, when they got the incense out, because they're very high, generally speaking, they're very Anglo-Catholic, very high church out there. But watching them swing the incense, it wasn't just the kind of, you swing it around their heads, and what they do it with such passion and such enthusiasm. I kept thinking, if we did it like that, I don't want to introduce it in Britain because it was so brilliant. Because they weren't just doing it all terribly, they were doing it with passion and enthusiasm. And I think what Paul is saying here is, whatever you do, do it with enthusiasm. Do it in the Lord, whichever way you do it. If you keep Saints' Days, do it with passion. If you don't keep Saints' Days, don't keep them with passion. If whatever you do it with full conscience. Do it with a clear head and a clear heart, and do it for the Lord. So do it passionately. So do what you do, but as I say, do it well, do it enthusiastically, and do it passionately. I think the third thing, though, he's saying here is about charity and about accepting other people despite the way they have different ways of doing things. So another person may worship in a different style to you, but actually recognizing that is just as good, and actually being welcoming and being charitable to being different ways of doing things. I think often it goes like this. As somebody has an amazing experience of God, it could be through a Bible verse, or it could be through some worship, or it could be walking into church full of candles and incense, or it could be an act of love, or whatever happens, somebody has an amazing experience of God. And that it sets them on fire and got into their lives, and that's really passionate and exciting and fantastic. But unfortunately, what tends to happen is they tend to think to themselves often, this is what happened to me, therefore this is the way God works, and either look down on or don't accept that God might work in different ways. And I think what Paul is saying here is welcome other people. They may have different ways of doing things, they may have different styles, different ideas, but let's be charitable and let's welcome other people. Let's allow other people to do things, to live the Christian life out their way. I think actually, if across the world's church, if we would only be more accepting of each other like that, accepting that other people have different situations and different styles, and actually recognising that there's more than one way to live out the Christian life, then I think actually we'd be a lot happier and we wouldn't have as many fallouts. So, my friends, Paul gives us some great advice this morning to try and prevent us from falling out. I think the first thing he says is recognise the things that are really important and hold fast to those, and let's not worry too much about what he calls debatable matters, or opinions as he calls it in this translation this morning. Let's recognise the things that are really worth getting excited about and the things that aren't. A bit of proportion. That's the first thing. Secondly, he says, whatever you do it with enthusiasm, do it with passion. I might even put on Facebook in a minute the picture of that guy I saw swinging incense. If it's all like that, then I'd want to do it myself because it's brilliant. Watch this guy. But like I say, do it with passion. So whatever you do it with passion. And thirdly, let's recognise that there's more than one way that God works in our lives, more than one Christian way. And let's be charitable and understanding and acceptance that God may, well, we may have a particular style ourselves that we like, but let's recognise that God can work in other ways as well. And that way we can give each other charity and love and acceptance. And that way we'll be one in the body of Jesus. God bless you. Have a lovely day. And I'll see you again on Monday. Do join us for worship over the weekend. Don't forget, it's not on Facebook. Do join us. If you go onto the church website, stbarts.org.uk, click on live stream and you'll be able to follow us for the worship over the weekend.